Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my NHL 20 franchise mode here in Columbus, Ohio for the finale. And I never thought I would make it here, honestly. By God. Episode 152, 153 days straight. And for me, somebody who is really inconsistent with a lot of things in life in general, this has been eye-opening. Not only the subscribers or the views, that's nice, but for me, just doing this and having something to do every day and people coming back watching every episode, you don't know how much that means to somebody who's just starting out on this platform. Yes, I've done videos in the past, but this is the first actual attempt at being very consistent. And very consistent, I mean every day. Hell, I left the province and I still had episodes going up every day, and I've heard from a few people like, oh, you should spread out your uploads, but I'm trying to cheat the system, honestly. I want to put up as many videos, flood the system, you know. If you do, it's hard to catch up when you fall behind, and that's what I've there's no gameplay going on in this episode if you haven't already realized that. It's over. We're going to talk about Columbus and all that jazz, but we're just a finale episode. We're just talking, tying up loose ends, all that jazz, but where the hell was I? What was I talking about? Yeah, it's been awesome making this series. You know, I got to day 30 and I'm like, hell, oh my gosh. Man, I pushed plans off just to make this, and I know you might be like, gee, Owen, you really don't have a life. And yeah, I really don't have a life. I love doing this. This is my passion, and I wish I could do this for a living, to be honest. I wish I could sit here every day and put up even more content. If I had the time, I would. I would even stream if I had if I had the necessary tools to do so. Oh, bless you, cat. Yes, my cat's sick. Everybody's sick, apparently. It's the coronavirus. My cat's got the coronavirus. It's been an awesome 152 days. What? That's close to half a year, I think. Yeah, that's close to half a year. That's a long time. Since September 15th, if I'm not mistaken. Uploaded on Christmas, uploaded every freaking day. And if at least one of you guys enjoyed the consistency, that makes me happy as a human being who puts out these videos, yeah, for his own pleasure sometimes, but people coming back and watching the videos and be like, I come home and I watch these after school. That's what I appreciate the most. You guys take time out of your day to watch these videos. Hell, I don't think I'm entertaining. I stumble on my words sometimes, and if you haven't noticed, in the last, 30 episodes, I haven't really been editing them as much. I've just been kind of going with the flow. You know, it saves me a whole lot more time. If I screw up in an episode, I think you can understand. See, I almost did it right there. But this entire franchise mode has been a teaching lesson for myself. You know, I even stated in the last episode that I hadn't been putting thumbnails on videos because I hadn't had enough time, and I literally hadn't had any time. My sleep schedule is obliterated. Yeah, I could take a week off, but I enjoy putting this stuff out. I've been up till 4 o'clock in the morning every night for the last week and a half, making sure these videos get up, because I'm a procrastinator, but I'm not going to miss a day for some frivolous activity. I want to make sure these videos get up. And it's been an absolute pleasure doing it. And some videos do really well, some videos don't. Some videos just don't. And the ones that do, I don't know. It's you guys seem to enjoy it, and hey, it's a long ways till NHL 21. We have a few months to go, and I'm thinking when NHL 21 picks up, maybe we'll get a nice boost in subscribers. More people will come on and watch my series, because if you think this final episode is it for me, no. I am still working on the rosters. Yes, I'll be up pretty late this evening doing that, but I've done test simulations. I've done all that jazz. I'm really working hard on it for you guys, and I'm hoping you guys enjoy the coming series. Because if you guys are enjoying it, I'm enjoying it, but if I'm enjoying it, you guys seem to enjoy it more. And I've spent so much time editing the rosters, you guys don't even know. I have probably close to 100 custom players at this point in the game, and there's a few ones that I still am playing around with. Your guys' created players, if you guys commented, I keep saying you guys, I'm sorry. If you commented in the episode, or it was called my next franchise mode or something like that, and you commented a custom player on that, you're in the next franchise mode, guys. I put you in the draft. Maybe year 1, maybe year 2, maybe year 3. I'm not sure where some of you guys are, but it's for us to find out. And if you guys have any suggestions, leave them in the comments. I know I haven't been as consistent talking to everybody. I know I've been working 40 hours a week. I've been staying up till 4 o'clock in the morning. Sleep schedule is done. Red Bull is my new best friend. Yeah, it's the sugar-free one. I don't know if it really helps, but it apparently does. 5-hour energy is awesome, but don't take 2 of them. That's what I did on my flight to Newfoundland. I was up for 36 hours. But yeah, if you guys aren't even watching this episode, I don't blame you. If you've already tuned out, I'm already 8 minutes into this episode or something like that. I'm not really, I'm not really timing this whole ordeal. It's an ordeal. It's a finale. This episode is for me. I did talk during our Stanley Cup celebration. Yes, our Stanley Cup, our final simulating episode 2044 game 6. We won the Stanley Cup, our franchise's 9th Stanley Cup. It's awesome. I did talk during the celebration, saying all that jazz. But sitting down, an epilogue. This is an epilogue. This is a final thoughts about my franchise mode. I've spent so much time. I've grown close to some of these players, and I wish I could go farther. NHL, please. I know, when I played offline, 25 years was impossible to get to. But when I'm making a series, putting out an episode every day, it sucks that I can't go farther with a lot of these young guys, see where their careers go, see where all that, see where all those guys end up. It's been a ride, guys, and we're going to talk about that. I don't know how long this episode is going to be. I'm going to finish it when it feels right. And I've never gotten to the final screen where it says franchise mode is complete. It's going to feel empty on the inside. This is bittersweet, personally. This franchise mode was a test for myself. And the first video, my first video has like 3,000 views, which is just nuts. I think when you type up NHL 20 franchise mode, it's on the first page. And I don't know why. It's awesome. And I'm not sure how well my new series is going to do, but I'm going to do daily uploads every day. Apparently that's what daily means. Until I can't anymore. And with school coming around, all that jazz, I just want to get as much people on to the Owen train, choo-choo, before we have to slow down a little bit. And I'm being consistent. This is the most consistent I've been about anything in my entire life. And I'm proud of myself. If you're proud of me, leave a like, leave a comment, all that jazz. And if you're still here during this episode, I don't know why you are, number 1. Number 2, go into the comments right now and tell me your favorite moment. If you just started watching, if this is one of the first videos you're watching, go back. There's a few episodes I can recall to. Any Stanley Cup Finals, you can easily find a Stanley Cup Finals. You literally look at the thumbnail, and if it has a Stanley Cup in the left-hand corner or the left-hand side, that's a Stanley Cup Finals. And we've been to some crazy ones. We've been to Game 7 OTs, losing 2 straight in Game 7 OT. It's been such... This is the craziest franchise mode I've ever played, and I remember playing as a 16-year-old. I'm 19 now. Playing 2 in the morning, Vancouver Canucks NHL 15 or whatever. Oh, 15 years in my franchise mode. You know, it's crazy to think how quickly this went by. 152 days is 152 days, right? But it went so quick, and, you know, it would have been a lot longer if I had spaced it out, but I think this franchise mode run its course. I'm not saying that I'm over it. I'm not saying that I'm just sick of it, this franchise mode in particular, but it is going to be nice going out west. That is the hint for the episode tomorrow. Yes, the next franchise mode is starting tomorrow, barring any crazy circumstances. I want you, if you are watching this video right now, I want you to go watch the video tomorrow. Please, it'll mean a lot. If we can get that first video to 100 views in a day, that would be fantastic for myself. I know you're not a time traveler. You can't go a day ahead in time, but if you can, tell me the lottery numbers. I'd really appreciate it. But what was I saying? Go into the comments below. Tell me your favorite moment in this franchise mode. Tell me your favorite player. Why? I mean, let's list off some of the greats, some of the best players I've ever played with. Let's start at the top of the list. Let's start with Jeffrey Woodworth. And something that I didn't realize, he ended up with 2,265 points, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought he had 2,300, and apparently he didn't, which is... I thought he did. Apparently I'm crazy, but Jeffrey Woodworth defined this franchise mode. He was the first pick that I made. He was the captain for 7 Stanley Cups. He had 8 in his career. Obviously, I wish he had number 9, but it's whatever. He was... I don't know why I picked him. I was going to go with another guy, but then I'm like, you know, something feels right about this Jeffrey Woodworth kid. And he defined this franchise mode. He did. He was the best part, and he was the most fun part watching through his 20-plus year career. Guys like Matthew Savoie. We'll talk about him. We're going to go into the stats later. There's no gameplay. There's nothing going on in this episode. It's just me talking about the franchise mode in general. This is therapy for myself, and it's therapy for you. I don't know, maybe. I was going to go all out for this episode, but I thought maybe I spend more time putting more effort into my next series. It'll turn out better, because I was going to go and maybe look all the way back into my future episodes, pull up players, but I'll do it word of tongue, okay? Let's start all the way at the beginning. Jeffrey Woodworth, fantastic. Best player I've ever had. I know Savoie might have more points, but Jeffrey Woodworth was the captain. He was my favorite player to ever play with. And let's go all the way back. Guys that we originally started with. Pierre-Luc Dubois. Guy was so underrated. We haven't had him for, I want to say, close to a decade. It's been a few years since we've had him. And he was fantastic. My God, he was a second first-line center for his entire career. What a player. I mean, he had 6 Stanley Cups. I'm not sure how many he ended up with, but it was either him or Jeffrey Woodworth that was going to be the captain after I stripped Seth Jones of the captaincy. Speaking of Seth Jones, IRL, he broke or tore something, and he's out for 8 weeks, which sucks. Sorry, Columbus Blue Jackets fan. And if you're a Columbus Blue Jackets fan, I'm cheering for you guys. I know I love the Montreal Canadiens, but I do enjoy an underdog story. Panarin leaving you, Bobrovsky leaving you, this Elvis Merzlikins coming in and being the best goalie in the world currently. Like, what is that? That doesn't make any sense. Anthony Duclair's on Ottawa. Whoops! I'm sorry about that. Whoops! Big Texas. If you don't know the name Big Texas, you haven't been here with this franchise mode long enough. Big Texas. Alexander Texier. I don't know why I said Big Texas. It just kind of stuck for me. I loved that kid. And then we traded him away to Chicago because he was bad and his cap space was high. Considering how often I would trade away players late into their career, or not super late into their career, but where they'd be highest in their value when they were not the best player anymore, I would just trade them away. I stuck to my guns on a lot of players. You gotta give me credit here. Big Texas was one of them. I didn't want to get rid of him, but God forced my hand. I had to. Let's talk about the worsts, huh? Yaroslav Askarov. He helped us get to the Stanley Cup playoffs the one year, and we won a Stanley Cup, but he was not that goaltender. Couple years down the road, we're a mega team. We're a President's Trophy winning team. We have Matthew Savoie on the roster. We have all these guys coming together to make an awesome team. 2 straight Stanley Cup Finals disappointments, Dallas and Vancouver. Askarov is out the door, but that opens opportunities for young guys, and the young guy, let's go even look at him. This is the best goalie that I have ever played with, bar none. I've played with awesome goalies. Back in NHL 16, I had Thatcher Demko. He won like 4 Stanley Cups, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Vyacheslav Kavanov, we drafted him in the second round, 58th overall. I'm like, wow, this high elite goalie. I've never seen one before. I hadn't. NHL 19 just didn't have that. You rarely ever saw it. First, second, third overall pick, maybe. But in the second round, he was projected to go later. I just wanted to make sure I got my hands on him. And we did end up drafting another high elite goalie, Byers, and then we traded him to Vancouver for Soy and Medvedov. But Kavanov was... I didn't know he was going to be the guy I needed so quickly. When Askarov crapped the bed, he came in. I write about... Here, he played in Cleveland. Fantastic season. First season he comes in the NHL. 27 games, 21, 3-2, 5 shutouts. I'm surprised he didn't win the Calder that year. He was that good. He was so good in his rookie season. 47 wins. 39, a little down. 50, 54, 52. Those 4 seasons right there put him into a different bracket. There was a streak there where, I think he ended up with something like 8 Vezinas and 10 William M. Jennings in his career, which is just nuts. 10 William M. Jennings. We play with some fantastic rosters. We were always good. We didn't miss the playoffs once after the second year of this franchise mode's history. Year 3, I think we played Florida. We lost to them in the second round. Then we won the Stanley Cup the year after. It's crazy. This guy, he had 50 win. He had what? 4 50-win seasons, 5 50-win seasons. He's the best goalie of all time. 714 wins, 228 losses. I'm gonna go find Martin Brodeur's stats right now because Martin Brodeur. I should have wrote this down before, but did I? No. Martin Brodeur. How many games did he play? He played 1,266 games. Vyacheslav Kavanov played 1,018. Martin Brodeur, let's see, 691 wins. He had 397 losses. That's crazy, but he also did play in the era of ties, so I'll give him a little bit of that, but he played 200 more games than Woodworth. He also had 125 shutouts, but 78 shutouts in his career for Vyacheslav is so impressive. He's the best goalie of all time. He's playing in a different era of goaltenders. Obviously, Martin Brodeur is one of the best, but 714 wins, he's that far and above everybody else. And at 37 years of age, he might just stay in a backup role for a few years. He might not even decide to retire. He could just chill out for a few more years and just play in Columbus if he really feels like it. I mean, he's on an expensive deal for one more year. He might sign a contract, or he might go back to just go back to Russia, Mother Russia. Maybe go back to Russia. I mean, is that Ukraine? I'm not sure, but he was Russian. Russian standard. Bryce Marchment. He disappointed me a lot sometimes. Last year was rough. 4th round pick. I mean, we knew how to draft goalies, and I'm hoping in the next franchise mode that I draft goalies well. But maybe I go out and pick up a forward in the 4th round or something. I'm not sure. Let's talk about all that. I think it's the point in the episode where we're going to talk about the playoffs. We're going to talk about the playoffs. The playoffs were crazy, and we clinched every series in Game 6 against Washington, against Carolina, against Toronto, against San Jose, which was just crazy. I don't know if it was destiny. It was weird that we won every series in 6 games. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure how. That's pretty improbable that we won every round in 6 games. I mean, has that happened before? I'm not sure. Probably. It's just crazy. But let's start at the top. Speaking of the greats, we've said Jeffrey Woodworth. There's nothing more to say about him. We've talked about Big Texas. We've talked about Dubois. We've talked about Kavanaugh. Let's talk about Matthew Savoie, the most underrated player in this franchise mode's history. I mean, you could say that's Joshua Waugh, because that guy was crazy. But Matthew Savoie, dude. Let's talk about the MVP line. The left winger, Joshua Waugh, originally drafted as a center. That guy was so underrated. Matthew Savoie, drafted by Detroit, the 2nd overall pick. I mean, Savoie and Shane Wright ended up playing together in their final years together at 40 and 40 for both of them. I mean, geez, yeah, they're probably going to retire. If they don't retire, I mean, what's the point anymore? I mean, GM thumbs is out, so your career ain't getting any better, boys. 2,286 points. 2 goals shy of 1,000, but he might have more points in his career than Jeffrey Woodworth, but Matthew Savoie played 2.5 seasons with Detroit, which means the highest scoring player in Columbus Blue Jackets history, the captain Jeffrey Woodworth, 2,265. I mean, then you go to a guy like Shane Wright. Shane Wright had friggin', let's see. He had like 2,377. So he's the 2nd closest player to Wayne Gretzky. That is nuts. He's a great, I don't want to even talk about him. He's that, look at him. That is just a crazy way to end the series. We trade for him in the offseason. We get here to the Stanley Cup Finals. Everything is sweet, and I didn't rig it. You know how hard it is to win a Stanley Cup in this franchise mode? Some years you win 67 games and you get swept in the first round. Sometimes that just happens. This year, I don't know. The game was on my side. But getting a guy like Shane Wright and playing him with Matthew Savoie and them working really well, 97 points for Shane, 95 points for Savoie. They were the GOATs. If you take into consideration players that have played before, and you go 25 years to the end of this franchise mode, and you count everybody together, the top 5 players of all time. Let's think critically. The best player in NHL history is still Wayne Gretzky. I mean, you take Shane Wright. He's still under 500. He's still half a normal career away from Wayne Gretzky, which is just, that's a crazy idea in its own right. I mean, he's by far and ahead the best goal scorer of all time. I mean, Ovechkin didn't even come close to Shane. He's just crazy. I hope he simulates like that in the next franchise mode. I guess he just got lucky playing with McDavid there for a few years. I'm not sure, but he produced really well without him. So Wayne Gretzky, number 1, obviously. And then you can debate the next 4. You could put 2 Columbus Blue Jackets in that top 5. Okay, top 5 all time. And maybe you go by accolades, you go by their skills, so points. I mean, Gretzky is number 1 still. If we're taking everything into consideration, I'm saying Jeffrey Woodworth is number 2. He was a captain of the best player in the last quarter century. He was a captain. He had 8 Stanley Cups. Not a lot of players can say that. I believe Red Kelly had 8. And then Beliveau had like 13, something crazy. But Jeffrey Woodworth is up there in that tier. He is that player. He was a captain, man. I mean, Savoie had 7 Stanley Cups. No, he had 8. He had 8 Stanley Cups. Because, they won the same amount of Stanley Cups. But I'm going to give it to Jeffrey Woodworth. Just because he dominated the league for so many years, and he was that centerpiece on that first line. Obviously, Savoie, you can debate it. Savoie's played longer, but here in Columbus, Jeffrey Woodworth was that guy. Savoie is no doubt number 3 all time. I know. Those 2 players playing together on such a good team, that's hard to say. Then I think it's debatable for anybody else. I think number 3 would be Shane Wright. I think Shane Wright and then Matthew Savoie at number 4. You can debate all that, guys. Number 5, you can say whoever you want. Sidney Crosby, Mario Lemieux, Jaromir Jagr, Messier. But I think the top 4 is set. Those guys defined their generations. There's so many other players that we haven't talked about. Elias Pettersson, Podkolzin, McKinnon, McDavid, Crosby at the end of his career, Ovechkin at the end of his career. So many guys that just tore up this league and that are going to tear up this league in the future. Some young guys, some guys from teams that are going to dominate. San Jose is that next team. You can feel it that they're going to be a dynasty, but they're getting older, and we still whooped them. We're the dynasty. We are the modern day Detroit Red Wings of the 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. We're the Chicago Blackhawks, way better than them, of the 2010s, and the LA Kings of the 2010s. We're the Mario Lemieux's Pittsburgh Penguins of the 90s. We're the Montreal Canadiens, the Oilers, and the Islanders of the 80s. We are the dynasty. We're the Broad Street Bullies with a little more talent. A little more. Look at the players that we've had. It's undeniable that this is the best franchise mode I've ever played. I've played crazy ones, yeah. And it kind of gets repetitive playing it night in, night out. But putting up episodes every day has given me that chance to connect more to these players. And it's just nuts how crazy these players have produced. And for like a 10-year period, maybe longer, the MVP line, if you're too new to this series and you don't know what the MVP line is, go back like 30, 40 episodes and enjoy. Every year for about a decade, they would put up 100 points each of them. That equals 300 points for the top line. Close to 400 a few times. Maybe they hit it a few times, because I know one season, they probably hit 400 a few times. They were nuts. The MVP line, I dubbed them that. They're the Hall of Fame line. I mean, Savoie's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Was a first ballot Hall of Famer. Jeffrey Woodworth is the first ballot Hall of Famer. Did I say that? It's nuts. And I couldn't be happier. Okay, let's talk about the young guys. We're going to go in sections here. Lindstrom, Friesen, Mironov. Those are the young guys. Those are young guys, and I wish I could see their careers unfold, but I can't. I can't go any more years. This is it. I wish I could go more. This is year 25. This is the last one. 21 years of age. This is his prime. He was this close to an Art Ross in his 3rd season. I think we won it. Yeah, we won a Stanley Cup in his rookie season. That's nuts. That is crazy. He's going to be the best player on this team in about, I would say, potentially next year if guys like Savoie and Wright are gone. Lindstrom would be nuts to play with for longer, okay? Bobby Friesen, who disappointed for a very long time. He was never that playmaker. Ice to meet you. I wish I could have said that more. Ice to meet you. He was a 60-point player for a little bit. He was a 50-point threshold player, 60 points for 3 years, and 88 points this year. And we might be a victim, not a victim, but he might benefit from the circumstance here in Columbus. 67 wins, you win more games, your guys are going to put up more points. That's just obvious. But in his career, he's won multiple Stanley Cup rings. He is impressive as all hell. He's won a few Stanley Cups. He's the man. He's going to be the man. I mean, he's 90 overall. He's going to be that center heading into the future. Imagine Lindstrom passing to Friesen for the next decade. That's nuts. And if you have a guy like Marcus Lindstrom, this guy at the end of his career might even be better than guys like Woodworth and Savoie. You never know. He's put up 82 points in his sophomore season. That's nuts. That is crazy. I think it's nuts. I think that's so impressive. Okay, those are the young guys. Off the table. Over and done with. I mean, Murphy, who came up clutch a few times, it's awesome, but I wish I could play with a lot of these guys a lot longer. But okay, let's talk about the guys in the primes of their careers. Let's talk about MP3. MP3. I remember trading for the pick to acquire this guy in 2033, the draft. I believe Winnipeg had the 10th overall pick. We sent a lot of assets their way, and I'm sure a lot of you guys would be like, damn, that was a lot of assets to give up. But I'm smart. I know exactly what I'm doing. We won 9 Stanley Cups. Obviously, I'm doing something right. This guy has been so impressive, especially these last few seasons where he's been in a bigger role. He's been more of an asset to the franchise. Almost 400 goals in 800 games. He'll do it. So he's half a goal per game in his career. Over that, actually. He's crazy good. He is potentially the captain once Savoie goes down. And realistically, who takes that job? Let's think about that. Savoie retires this year. Okay, who's taking it? Do you give it to the young guy in Lindstrom? Do you give it to MP3? Do you give it to Abel Carlos? Kovalev? Mironov, maybe? There's a lot of guys you could potentially give it to. I'm not sure. It sucks that we're never going to be able to see that because, come on, NHL. Just in MLB and in 2K, you can go for 50 years. You could go for so much longer, and it sucks now that I can't maybe finish the series and then play offline with them. It sucks, but so is life, man. Pro Horkin has been a dominant player. He's really come into his own. I remember this season right here. He played 2 years in Cleveland. He came up during the playoffs, won the No, he didn't win the Stanley Cup, but he was impressive, though. Did he win the Stanley Cup? I'm not sure. He was impressive. Rookie season really good, almost a 30-goal campaign. 40, 50, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40. He's going to be a perennial 40-goal guy. That is for sure. 100 points this year, 100 points last year, 91 the year before that. there is a lot of reasons pointing to him being the next captain. And whoever takes over for this team, hey, congratulations, you have a roster right now that you can compete with. Rookie chart is, it would only take a few years to fill up the pool. That's what I did in this game. I said the 3-year plan, and I plan on doing the same 3-year plan with the team that I plan on using. How many times can you say plan in a sentence? Plan, 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 plan. It worked. It worked so well. To a T, to an unrealistic T. And we were dominant, and it was kind of just fantastic for about 15 years of this, longer than 20 years. At the 5-year mark, we were just kind of on autopilot. I would say closer to 15 years, we were on autopilot. We were good. Pro Horkin, what a beast. Yuri Kovalev. We bring him over from Arizona. I believe he wins a cup in his first year with us. Comes over, I believe he did 23 games. That's probably a Stanley Cup if I'm not mistaken. He was good. He was a playoff performer. 13 goals this year, 14. He's just so good. And I'm so glad we acquired him. We didn't even acquire him for that much. He signs an extension. He's going to be a great player. 34. He still scores goals. And this team has always been repping that offensive capability. We were obviously an offensive team, and I'm not sure how I'm going to shape up other teams when I use them, because we were so blessed to have players that would just dominate the ice and make sure you get wins year in, year out. We were just on autopilot for so long that it's going to be hard jumping into another franchise mode with all the real players being like, hey, what am I supposed to do now? But it's going to be fun. I'm actually, for the majority of this day, I've been working on the thumbnail. I'm playing around with it. I think I'm almost done it. No spoilers here. Don't worry. It's looking like it's going to be really pretty. And I'm hoping it turns out well. I'm hoping we can have the same success and consistency of this series and the next one. Yuri Kovalev was a beast. Mironov, the younger player. Why don't we talk about him? This guy won 2 Stanley Cups before his sophomore season. The last time I can recall that happening was Matt Murray. He played with the Pittsburgh Penguins before his rookie season. And if you don't know how that would work, he played less than 21 games. I think I think it's different for goalies. I think goalies is 25 games to be considered a rookie season. But Mironov came over, I think it was right about, let's go to the playoff tree. Right about, let's see, came over right here. He played 20 games in the playoffs. We win the Stanley Cup that year. Nuts. Next year, we win the Stanley Cup. What the hell? In his rookie season, he's winning his 2nd Stanley Cup and a Calder. This guy is good for 28, close to 30 goals every year. He's a 30-goal guy every season. And he's just getting better. And with reduced time. So when all these players drop off, this is a guy that you're obviously going to rely on. His takeaway to giveaway ratio is phenomenal. Like 115 to 55 is just crazy. And he played 16 minutes of ice time. And he was this dominant. This is a player that I would love to use and could have used a lot longer, or a lot sooner in this franchise mode. Especially when we lost Dubois, but things happen for a reason, you know. Robinson Soy, 36 years of age, 82 overall. I remember drafting this guy. I'm still hazy, but I think we traded. What was it? When we drafted him. Let's go all the way back. So we drafted him. We drafted him in 2025. Okay. 3rd overall. I believe we traded. Who did we trade for that? Oh, I think we traded. No. Yes. No. I want to say that we traded Johnny Gaudreau to the Dallas Stars for that pick. Obviously, Johnny Gaudreau turns around and then wins a Stanley Cup against us. He might have even won 2. Robinson Soy doesn't play that great in his first few years, actually makes a decent career out of it in Vancouver. We beat him in Vancouver in the Stanley Cup Finals. He comes back to Columbus in potentially his last season, I'm not sure. Wins the Stanley Cup. And it's little things like that that mean a lot to me, just coming back. One final run. That's why it was so important for me to get Shane Wright. Just try it out. The dream team. And it worked. It was not like they were fringe 50-point players. They were 95-point players. Almost 100 points. They could have done it. Maybe if they got a little more time, I'm not sure. But at 40 years of age, who was the last 40-year-old to put up 95 points? Exactly. That's nuts. So Sue is... Yeah, he's on the good list now. I know when I traded him, I'm like, ew, gross, don't like him. But he turned it around here in Columbus, and I'm proud. I'm proud to have you back on the boys in purple. Hugo Bergeron obviously traded for him. Won a Stanley Cup. No, he didn't win a Stanley Cup last year. He won it this year. I know last year was just a conundrum all around. We fired our coach. We rehired the coach. He quit. It was a whole conundrum. We get eliminated in the first round. We take out our frustrations on Carolina in the second round this year. Beat them to go to the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, not specifically, but we headed to the Eastern Conference Finals. Beat Toronto. Headed back. Won our 9th Stanley Cup. But he was important for us. And he's just in his prime. Murphy, Medvedov, Gannon, Mayers. They were fine. Nothing special. Nothing to be up in arms about. 36 years of age for Medvedov. Almost 1,000 games. He was a pretty nifty player for Vancouver there for a few years. Montreal as well. Detroit. I'm sorry, you've been on some weird teams. But you won a Stanley Cup here with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, something that I'm eager to talk about, I don't know where I'm going to leave off this episode, but when I leave off this episode, it'll be the final time that I'll ever go into this franchise to look and see, because I want to close the chapter right. Abel Carlos. What was that? That would have been game 4 hero, game 4, 5, and 6 hero. He goes down with injury, and somebody commented, like, why would you put Savoie on the first line defense? And I'm like, who cares? We won a Stanley Cup, right? Abel Carlos goes down. He's the man. He has been, ever since Stu Cam, that's a name I haven't heard in a while, ever since Stu Cam retired, Abel Carlos has been the guy to take the reins. He took it not necessarily as good as Stu Cam, but Abel Carlos ran the show day in, day out. He's 31. He's got a good 6 years left in him. 3 years at the same level he's playing. And we were so lucky to draft him. Walker Farmer was solid when we traded him from Ottawa. I think we go out and we beat Ottawa that year in the playoffs. I think we win a Stanley Cup that year too. Crazy. He was a solid, nice little player for us. I'm glad we had him along the journey. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years with us. That's pretty impressive, actually. Then let's talk about the most underrated defenseman in this franchise mode's history. Mikko Jarvinen. You know, I drafted this guy 3rd overall. I believe we let somebody go in free agency. He was an RFA. They qualified him. We got the pick to get him. We drafted him. We put him in a keen position. He was... I'm trying to relate him to somebody. And I'm trying to find an even-keeled guy. Mark-Edward Vlasic comes to mind, but maybe I'm not sure. He has been so underrated. 30 points. He's good for at least 20 every year, and he's good for a plus 40 usually. plus 55 this year. Last was weird. 67 plus minus. 47, 81, which was his height there in 79 games. He was the man, but I do recall a time going like, hey, he's asking for 9.5. We're cap strapped. I might want to trade this guy. He was floating around an 84 at that time, and I'm not sure why. We were good. And I'm so glad we didn't trade him, because if you don't know, defensemen ask for a premium this late in the franchise mode. I'm not sure why. Goalies don't really ask for much. Forwards ask for a boatload, but defensemen, if they're like 80 overall, they'll ask for 5+, and I ain't about that, okay? I'm so glad we kept him along. 32 and 31 for Abel Carlos. These guys, they potentially will have their numbers retired at the end of their careers. I think both of them probably should. I mean, you go back to the forwards. Savoie, obviously. I mean, Shane Wright might have his number retired league-wide. Jeffrey Woodworth, nobody will ever wear 48 in Columbus' history ever again. It's crazy. It's nuts. Okay. What other defensemen do we talk about? Let's talk about Luke Wheeler. 23, 8 points in 24 games. Not the best, but he had a game winner, so we won a Stanley Cup. I can't be upset. If it would be a different story if we didn't win a Stanley Cup and this was the final episode, I don't think I'd be as happy. We are ending off on the perfect note. Just like when Woodworth retired, he retired off a Stanley Cup. Savoie's retiring off a Stanley Cup. Same with Shane Wright, potentially Kavanaugh. That's the way to go out. This is the perfect way to go out. I mean, Luke Wheeler really reminds me of Abel Carlos. Abel Carlos wasn't the defenseman until 25, until he was 25. So Luke Wheeler has a little catching up to do. They're eerily similar players. Let's look at Luke Wheeler's early stats: 10, 25, 27, 22. Abel Carlos, let's look at the beginning of his career. 17, 27, 22, 33. So he was a little bit better than... I mean, he was a lot better than Luke Wheeler just because of his plus-minus and how impressive that was. Plus 69, nice. But he was... They're eerily similar players. It was about right there. 54 points, 65, 54. I think he won a Norris with that. 73 this year. He's an incredible defenseman. I mean, guys like Vikland, they were a nice supporting cast. There were a lot of defensemen that were a nice supporting cast that you can go back and watch that I've had secret affairs with. There's a few guys out there that I would constantly bring back for $2 million every year because I love them so much. Wow. Just an incredible team. An incredible franchise. So let's simulate the awards. I want to see who maybe picked up a few awards in their last hurrah. Pittsburgh fired their head coach. Okay, Columbus. Let's check out the awards. So, in the final season of this franchise mode, your 2044 Stanley Cup champions, the Columbus Blue Jackets. President's Trophy, yet again, after missing out on it for 2 years. San Jose, they're going to be a good team. They are the team to beat. I mean, obviously we are, but no more, right? And we've been to the Stanley Cup Finals 3 of the last 5 years, and way more than that if you look back in the last decade. Individual awards, Tumo Laxo, he was hard to beat. Okay, but those guys, Josh Paul, Laxo, are definitely taking over the league. But the previous 3 years, it was Matthew Savoie. Hart Memorial goes to MP. I didn't even know he was going to win it. That is beautiful. I was joking all season calling him MVP. MP3 MVP, right? Get it? You get it, right? Hopefully you get that. That's incredible. That is, in his young career, 106 points. He wins the Hart Memorial on a 67-win team. There was a lot of guys in the league that you could have gone and been like, it's him. He should win. Wow. That is MVP. MP3 wins the MVP. Hart Memorial winner. That is huge. I love that. James Norris goes to Abel freaking Carlos, snapping Mancari's streak at 3 years. Obviously, San Jose's defenseman. Lady Byng goes to McKinley. He was a little bastard to play against. Calder goes to Parks. Conn Smythe goes to Matthew Savoie. 34 points in 24 games. What a player. 34 points, I'm pretty sure I'm right. 34 points. What an absolute player. Vezina trophy goes to Bryce Barch. Hey, after a rough postseason last year, a rough postseason this year, but comes out there. Obviously we won 67 games. Our forwards and defense really helped out. Bryce Barch went off and won a Vezina, and he's taking over the reins, especially with how terrible our rookie core looks. He is the guy heading into the future, and I appreciate a Vezina this early into his career. William M. Jennings, he wins that too. Who's surprised? Kavanagh won it a few years ago. What an absolute beauty. Bill Masterton goes to Mass. Jack Adams goes to Carlson. Frank J. Selke goes to Gurin. Ted Lindsay goes to MVP. MV3. That's incredible. Look at 3 of the last 5 years have been Columbus Blue Jackets. We've been the team to beat. And the Maurice Richard goes to Yuri Kovalev. 55 goals, beats... I want to say he beat Higgins. No, he didn't beat Higgins. He beat... I can't recall who he beat, but he beat them by 1 goal. Just an absolute dynasty. You can look back on the greats. Dubois. Goudreau won a Conn Smythe for us. Big Texas. Stu Cam. Joshua Waugh. Tuukka Rask won us the Stanley Cup. Right? Jeffrey Woodworth. Matthew Savoie. Did I say Matthew Savoie? It's been a franchise mode, guys. And I think that is it. Franchise mode is now complete. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this series, consider leaving a like, a comment, subscribing, because we have a new series on the way. I won't see you back here in Columbus, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Ciao.